Hello, everyone. I'm Julianne Ayre. I'm the director of Pivot Arts. And as many of you know, we've moved the Pivot Arts Festival into a virtual space. One of our biggest programs is our Arts Incubator program, where we develop exciting new works. And sadly, we did have to postpone that program this year because we could not gather in groups to rehearse work. But I'm so fortunate today to be joined with three of the artists who were going to participate in the incubator program, and as soon as it's safe for us to gather, we will be gathering them together to develop their works. Hey everybody.
Hi.
Hey.
Hi.
Thanks for being here with me. So I'm just going to give just the briefest of introductions. Aaliyah Christina is with us, and she is, as I said, one of our 2020 incubator programs. She's a dance artist and a choreographer who's often centered her works on the Black femme experience. She has her own company, Catalyst Movement, which she'll tell us a little bit about. And then we have Ashwaty Chennat, who's from Mandala South Asian Arts, and she's collaborating with Alvin Cobb Jr. over here, who's a jazz musician, and they'll be talking about their work. So why don't we kind of start with that? One of the most kind of interesting coincidences is Aaliyah and Ashwaty, you guys both applied to the program with works that are centered around the theme of mental health issues. And I wonder if you could just tell me like a little bit about your project. Aaliyah, why don't we start with you? Project that you're going to develop in the incubator program, and kind of why you gravitated towards that theme.
Well, my project is called I'm Full of BS, an autobiography. It's kind of centered around Black single motherhood and their children, and how a lot of Black single mothers are neglected by healthcare officials and aren't properly diagnosed with their mental health issues. And so mine is coming directly from personal experience as a child of a Black single mother. I also have my own issues with depression and anxiety. And so my project is kind of like a anthology of stories of Black women who've been raised by single mothers, as well as who are single mothers, and how the mental struggles kind of trickle down to their children and how their children deal with that. And then also how that comes back around to a healing process together as a mother, a daughter, son, child, and how they can become closer by actually addressing these mental health disparities and issues head on.
Ashwaty, you were also interested in exploring some issues of mental health. Do you want to tell us just a little bit about your project and also your collaboration with Alvin?
Sure. So Alvin and I are close friends, and we spent several years working together at the Music Box Theater, which, you know, there's a lot of downtime being a concessionaire. So we got to bond over our shared artistic experiences as well as our shared family history. Both of us grew up with mental illness being prevalent in our childhood homes, and a lot of our lives were centered around grappling with that, and we both felt that we didn't have the resources, the community network or support to express what we were going through, to find others that we could identify with, and that was really difficult for us growing up. And so we turned to our art.
When I was in college, I think that was my first exposure to Indian classical music. Not saying I became a scholar in it, but I just definitely noticed a lot of similarities in how the rhythms were constructed. And I've noticed a trend in at least modern improvisational music that there's a huge obsession with Indian rhythms and Indian improvisation. So it's been interesting working with Ashwaty, trying to find the marriage between that, because sometimes there's an awkward cultural exchange.
So much right now about how to help artists, saving artists, what do artists need? And I'm wondering if one of you, all of you, could speak to, like, what do you think is most needed right now as individual artists?
I think more than anything, the people who thrive on what we create, who use art as a space to transport themselves or reflect or find ways to empathize with others, need to remember that artists are the reason why that is all there and why we get to access it. And we need to continue to support during this time. Donate to artists, engage with artists, remember them, appreciate them, and they are a vibrant part of your community. So yeah, those voices are, I think, the most important in our society.
And so I created Catalyst Movement as a curatorial collective to kind of just find these spaces and partner with these spaces like Lynx Hall or Outer Space Studios, RIP. And, you know, just to kind of be able to create our own space, and for artists who aren't with a company or creating work independently, they can come together and present work in front of audiences and be able to even get feedback at some of these events, and also bridge the gap between audience and artists, you know, because sometimes people feel so removed from the performer that they're not really engaging in the work. So that's another mission, is that we are able to connect with the folks who are witnessing our work, and we're not just, you know, having a one-off, here's my work, goodbye, if you don't understand it, whatever, you know. I want it's not that you need to understand like every piece and moment of somebody's work, but you want to be able to connect to what they're trying to show you and what they're putting out.
I think it's easier to make a connection with your audience knowing that it came from a real place and wasn't as contrived or pretentious or condescending to the audience, because I think in some art forms, it's very easy to kind of look down on your audience and say like, oh, like it's your job to meet us where we are, and if you're unable to do that, then it's your fault. And I think a lot of the artists I've grew up respecting were able to meet halfway with the people they were trying to connect with, and I think that's all you can ask for, is just a mutual respect and compassion for each other.
Like Aaliyah and Alvin said, like the first thing that we can do as artists to reach anyone is to just be open and honest and in our own art, in the way that we express. And I think for me, one goal is to just be me. So, because I have a lot of students, and I think they are everything. Like, I do it for them. I want them to see themselves in an artistic space and know that, you know, their opinions and their voice matters. And
Speaking of things that we're watching in quarantine, I have an 11-year-old boy, so I have been watching a lot of Marvel movies. So I can't resist closing out with the question, guys, what is your superpower? Go, tell me. I want to know. Unmute, everybody unmute. Let's do this.
this is my superpower.
What is that?
Spider-Man, right?
Wow, I didn't know if it, oh, Spider-Man, yeah, you've got the whole hand thing down. I didn't know. Secret identity, huh?
Invisibility.
Invisibility. Why?
Sometimes I'm unintentionally invisible, and it's not always a bad thing, but I do like to kind of crawl into a corner when I'm in certain public spaces and kind of just observe over everybody else. And then I make myself uninvisible when I finally get like a vibe and I'm like, okay, I see what's happening here. So I'm able to like come out and show myself, I guess.
Okay.
Just the idea of going different places on my own terms would be really cool, because I just know growing up I didn't have that many opportunities to see the things I read about or heard about. So I think if some freak accident happened and I could fly, that'd be pretty cool.
I love it. I love it. It just warms my heart to be here with all of you. I miss you. I can't wait to see you in person. But for now, thank you so much. Just a reminder to everybody that the Pivot Arts Festival has moved to a virtual. We will be going there live on June 5th and have content up through June 30th. And all of these artists are actually creating some digital content as part of the festival. And we will be supporting development of their works as soon as possible. And so join us June 5th at pivotarts.org/festival. Thanks everybody for being here. So good to see you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.